You've been faking this whole time, Xavier shouted, his hands pressing hard against my shoulders. 3 years of lies, and everyone believes you. Xavier, please, my spine. I gasped as he shoved harder. There's nothing wrong with your spine. You just want attention. His final push sent me crashing to the hardwood floor, my back exploding in agony. My brother pushed me down to prove my back injury wasn't that serious. Hi, I'm Horace Whitfield. Today, I'm going to tell you my story. But before I continue, please like, share, and subscribe to hear more stories like this. 3 years before that horrible day, I was 23 and working at a warehouse when a forklift accident changed my life. A new operator, texting while driving, knocked over a fully loaded shelf unit. It came down on me like a metal avalanche. The doctors said I was lucky to walk away at all. 3 herniated discs, spinal stenosis, and permanent nerve damage that sent lightning bolts of pain down my legs with every wrong move. My older brother Xavier had been the family golden child before my accident. Investment banker marathon runner engaged to Cordelia from a prominent family. He lived for being the center of attention at family gatherings. The successful son our parents, Harold and Margot, bragged about to their country club friends. Horace is doing wonderful too, my mother would add awkwardly after gushing about Xavier's latest promotion. He's healing. That was the problem. My healing was slow, often invisible, and required accommodations that Xavier saw as privileges. I couldn't sit through long dinners without my special cushion. I needed to stand and stretch every 30 minutes. Some days, I walked with a cane. Other days, I looked completely normal, which Xavier interpreted as evidence of deception. Funny how your back only hurts when there's work to be done, he'd mutter when I couldn't help move furniture or play touch football at family gatherings. I have good days and bad days, I'd explain for the 100th time. That's how chronic pain works. Convenient. The tension escalated when I won my workers' compensation case. The settlement was substantial, covering medical bills, lost wages, and future treatment. I also received monthly disability payments while I retrained for less physical work. Xavier saw every penny as theft. You hit the lottery, he sneered at Thanksgiving, getting paid to sit around while the rest of us work. I'd trade every cent to have my health back, I replied quietly. Sure you would. Cordelia, his fiancée, often tried to smooth things over. She was a physical therapist and understood chronic pain better than Xavier ever would. Invisible illnesses are real, darling, she'd tell him gently. Just because you can't see Horace's pain doesn't mean it's not there. But Xavier's resentment only grew. Everything in my life that accommodated my injury became evidence of fraud in his eyes. The ergonomic car seat I needed for drives longer than 20 minutes, Princess and the Pea syndrome. The TENS unit I wore under my shirt, drama props. The times I had to leave events early when pain flared up, attention-seeking behavior. Our parents tried to stay neutral, but I could see they were torn. My mother believed me. She'd been at the hospital, seen the MRI results, watched me learn to walk again, but my father, always closer to Xavier, sometimes had doubt in his eyes when I declined physical activities. Maybe you could try a little harder, he suggested once. Mind over matter? Would you tell someone with a broken leg to use mind over matter? I asked. That's different. People can see a broken leg. The real turning point came when my grandmother Eugenie passed away. She'd left her house to be split equally between Xavier and me, but with a provision. Whoever needed it most should have the option to buy out the other's share at a reduced rate. I needed it desperately. My apartment had 3 flights of stairs with no elevator, a daily torture for my back. Grandmother's house was a single-story ranch with wide doorways and a walk-in shower. Absolutely not, Xavier declared at the will reading. You're not using your fake disability to steal my inheritance. I'm offering to buy your half, I reminded him, with money I received because I was permanently injured. Money you scanned from the system, our Aunt Beatrice, the executor, tried to mediate. Eugenie specifically wanted the house to help whoever needed it most. Horace's medical needs. What medical needs? Xavier exploded. Has anyone else noticed he only limps when people are watching? That was a lie, but it planted seeds of doubt. Family members began watching me more closely, whispering when I stood to stretch, exchanging glances when I used my cane. Xavier had turned my medical necessity into a performance I was apparently giving. The situation deteriorated further when I started dating Phoebe, a web designer I'd met at a chronic pain support group. She understood spinal injuries because she had one too, a riding accident in college. We bonded over our shared experiences, the things only people with invisible disabilities understand. Xavier was livid. How convenient. Found yourself another faker to validate your lies. You don't know anything about her, I protested. I know she's probably coaching you on how to milk the system better. Phoebe tried to handle Xavier's hostility with grace, but I could see how it hurt her. She'd faced her own share of disbelief and accusations. Having to face it from my family was almost too much. Maybe we should skip family dinners for a while, she suggested, after Xavier spent an entire meal making snide comments about disability fraudsters. I won't let him drive you away, I promised. He's the problem, not us. Everything came to a head at Xavier's engagement party. It was held at our parents' house, a sprawling colonial with multiple levels and no comfortable seating for someone with back problems. I arrived with my cushion and TENS unit, prepared to make the best of it. The party was in full swing when my back spasmed. I'd been standing too long, trying to avoid the low couches that would leave me in agony. I quietly retreated to the study, where I knew there was a firm chair I could tolerate. Xavier found me there, adjusting my TENS unit settings. His face was flushed with champagne and years of accumulated rage. Hiding again? He slurred. Let me guess, your back suddenly hurts at my engagement party? I've been here 2 hours, I said calmly. I just need to sit properly for a few minutes. You need to stop lying. He moved closer, swaying slightly. Do you know what people say? They ask me if my brother is really disabled or just lazy. Do you know how embarrassing that is? That's your fault for spreading doubt about my legitimate injury. Legitimate? He laughed bitterly. You fooled everyone. Mom, Dad, even grandmother from beyond the grave. But you haven't fooled me. Xavier, you're drunk. Let's talk about this tomorrow. No, we're settling this now. Stand up. What? Stand up. Face me like a man instead of cowering in that chair with your fake devices. I stood slowly, carefully, the way I'd learned to move to avoid triggering spasms. Xavier saw calculation where there was only caution. See? You're thinking about how to move, acting out each motion. I'm trying not to hurt myself further. Liar! His voice rose. I'm going to prove what you really are! You've been faking this whole time, Xavier shouted, his hands pressing hard against my shoulders. 3 years of lies and everyone believes you. Xavier, please, my spine. I gasped as he shoved harder. There's nothing wrong with your spine. You just want attention. His final push sent me crashing to the hardwood floor, my back exploding in agony. The scream that tore from my throat was primal. I hit the floor hard, my spine twisting in ways it couldn't tolerate anymore. The carefully managed pain became an inferno. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, could only writhe as every nerve from my lower back down shrieked in protest. Get up, Xavier commanded, standing over me. Stop the act. Get up. But I couldn't. The fall had displaced one of my herniated discs, pressing it directly onto nerve roots. My left leg had gone completely numb. The room spun as shock set in. Cordelia found us first. She'd heard my scream from the living room and ran in to find Xavier standing over my writhing form. What did you do? She gasped, immediately dropping to her knees beside me. Her trained hands carefully assessed my position. Nobody move him. Call 911 now. He's faking, Xavier insisted, but his voice wavered. He always fakes. His leg is showing neurological deficit, Cordelia snapped, her professional calm barely containing her fury. His foot drop is visible from here. You've caused serious damage. The party dissolved into chaos. Paramedics arrived, strapping me to a backboard as I drifted in and out of consciousness from pain. I heard Cordelia's clinical voice explaining what happened. Xavier's protests getting weaker, my mother's sobs. The emergency MRI showed the worst-case scenario. The disc Xavier's push had displaced was now pressing so hard on my spinal cord that I was at risk of permanent paralysis. I needed emergency surgery within hours. You're lucky your future sister-in-law recognized the signs, the neurosurgeon told me. In another few hours, and the damage would have been irreversible. The surgery was successful in preventing paralysis, but my condition worsened significantly. Where I'd had chronic pain before, now I had severe limitations. The herniated disc had to be removed entirely, requiring spinal fusion. My mobility decreased dramatically. The cane became a permanent necessity, not an occasional aid. Xavier tried to visit me in the hospital. The nurse turned him away on my instructions, but reported he looked devastated. He kept saying he didn't mean for this to happen, she told me, that he just wanted to prove something. He proved something all right, I said bitterly. He proved exactly who he is. The police took my statement. With multiple witnesses to the assault and Cordelia's professional testimony about Xavier's intentional actions despite my warnings, charges were filed. Assault causing bodily harm, aggravated battery. The fact that he'd targeted my known injury made it worse. The family imploded. My mother finally chose a side mine. I watched him push you, she wept. My own son attacking his injured brother. How did I raise someone capable of that? My father, forced to confront video evidence from the security system, could no longer doubt my injury or defend Xavier. The footage showed everything: my obvious pain before the push, Xavier's aggressive approach, the violent shove, my body hitting the floor at an angle that made viewers wince. I thought. My father couldn't finish. I'm sorry, Horace. I should have believed you. Cordelia broke off the engagement immediately. I work with spinal injury patients, she told anyone who asked. I could never marry someone who would intentionally harm a person with a known back injury. The cruelty is unfathomable. She testified at Xavier's trial, her professional credentials making her the prosecution's star witness. She explained in clinical detail how Xavier's actions could have paralyzed me, how pushing someone with herniated discs was essentially weaponizing their disability against them. Xavier's defense attorney tried to argue it was a drunken mistake, a moment of frustration, but the prosecution presented years of his messages and social media posts calling me a faker, a fraud, a malingerer. They showed a pattern of deliberate harassment aimed at someone with a documented disability. The defendant didn't just push his brother in a moment of anger, the prosecutor stated. He conducted a 3-year campaign to discredit a legitimately injured person, culminating in an assault designed to prove his twisted theory. When Horace Whitfield didn't jump up after being pushed, it wasn't because he was committed to some act. It was because the defendant had just caused catastrophic damage to an already injured spine. Xavier was convicted. The judge, noting the particular cruelty of attacking someone's known vulnerability, sentenced him to 18 months in prison and 3 years of probation. He was also ordered to pay restitution for my medical bills and ongoing care. But prison was just the beginning of Xavier's downfall. His investment firm fired him immediately. They couldn't have a convicted felon handling client money. His professional licenses were revoked. The golden boy who'd sneered at my disability payments was now unemployable in his field. The civil lawsuit followed. My attorney argued that Xavier's assault had taken me from partially disabled to severely disabled, impacting every aspect of my life. The jury awarded damages that wiped out Xavier's savings and would garnish his future wages for years. I did get grandmother Eugenie's house, buying out Xavier's share at the reduced family rate. The settlement money and Xavier's restitution payments covered the modifications I needed: grab bars, a walk-in tub, ramps instead of steps. It became my sanctuary, the accessible home my grandmother had wanted me to have. Phoebe stood by me through everything. She understood the trauma of having your disability questioned, then violently tested by someone who should protect you. We married in grandmother's backyard, a small ceremony with only the family members who'd supported me. I promise to believe you, she said in her vows, making several people cry. On good days and bad days, visible pain and invisible, I will always believe you. My parents visit me now. Mom comes weekly, helping with tasks that have become harder since Xavier's assault. She's never forgiven herself for not protecting me better, for letting doubt creep in. Dad's visits are less frequent, more awkward. He struggles with the role he played in enabling Xavier's skepticism, but he tries, and that matters. He's become an unexpected advocate, correcting people who make ignorant comments about disability benefits or accommodations. Phoebe and I are expecting our first child now. We've prepared for the possibility they might inherit our spinal issues, but we're not afraid. We know how to advocate for invisible illnesses, how to demand belief and accommodation. Our child will never doubt that their pain is real if it comes. Sometimes I think about what life would be like if Xavier had believed me from the start, if he'd shown empathy instead of envy, support instead of suspicion. Maybe we'd still be brothers. Maybe he'd be the successful uncle my child would admire. But he chose his path the day he decided my pain was a performance. Every snide comment, every public doubt, every accusation of fraud led directly to that moment in our father's study when he decided to test his theory with violence. If someone you loved developed an invisible illness tomorrow, would you believe them? Or would you need to see them collapsed on the floor before accepting their pain was real?